Welcome to the Dug in a Pub podcast, where I share thoughts, stories, and conversations about my life and my journey post-suicide attempt.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
So pull up a stool and let's see if we can change the world.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
Hello and welcome to the Dug in a Pub podcast, episode 4, season 2. This is kind of the question I'm going to try to answer, or at least start to answer in this episode, is kind of what made me step back and kind of relaunch the whole thing and really just focus on the reason I started this podcast and my blog to begin with. How to function better as a human and in life. And I've had enough people tell me that I said good things, that I helped them, that I thought I'd share. So the how is the question. How did I go from killing myself and then waking up the next day, even though I wasn't even starting the recovery yet, to moving forward and not looking back, to being content with life and knowing there was no going back? Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I have a friend whose daughter has some pretty severe health issues. She's 18, and she will have multiple surgeries. She'll probably have knees replaced and other joints replaced. The thing I always ask myself is, what would I say to her to help pull her forward? Because if there's anybody I know that's at risk, it's her. When you're in your 20s or 30s, it's easier to look forward and go, yeah, and if I can do this, or I can go there, or I can do this thing, I can get to this point in my life. But when you're 18, you don't see those things. When you're in your 12, 14, 15, you don't see. Our brains are so ill-formed at that point, we don't have the ability to really project ourselves into a happier time. And depression does that too. Depression is such a liar. It makes you think you don't have friends. It makes you think no one likes you. It makes you think you're worthless. It does all these things, and it just lies to you, and it drags you into that hole. So a lot of what I did was I developed a lot of new habits, which I'll go into in future episodes. I developed a lot of new skills. They're a lot of the same thing. The skill turns into a habit, basically. In the short term, what got me from, suicide attempt to moving forward, for me, it was an either or. If it didn't work, it didn't work, and I was just going to move on. So that's what I did. I also made promises to people. I haven't broken promises. I've made, maybe a couple dozen promises, and I haven't broken one. So I'm a man of my word. So when I promised my kids and my ex and a bunch of my friends, I'm keeping it. I haven't looked back once. I have never sunk to the point where suicide has even come to mind yet. And honestly, I haven't really felt depressed since that night. I've never felt that, even a start of that anguish, that darkness, that loss, that being in a hole and being covered with black cotton, just that complete muffled of your entire existence into meaningless and worthlessness. I haven't gotten back to that point or anywhere near it since then. But yeah, when I was asked, how did I do it? I'm like, I don't know. I just did, which is true and it's not true. Like I said, I made promises. For me, it was an either-or proposition, and having an Asperger's kind of brain, either-or works really well for me. If it's not A, it's B. Very black and white in my thinking, at least I used to be. So it was easy for me to go, well, that didn't work. Now I'm going this way. And then I read a book from Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now, and he talked about when something happens, act as if you chose it, which is really hard to do. Like, when your parents die, or a friend gets cancer, or whatever it might be, it's really hard to accept that as if I chose it. But again, like everything else I'm going to talk about, it's a skill that you can learn, and you can turn it into a habit. And that's really what I've done. People have asked me if I meditate, and I don't. I listen to music. That's what really brings me back to center when I'm out. Or I watch. There's a couple of movies that are if I'm in any kind of mood and I need to pick me up or to laugh, a couple of movies I watch, Pick a Destiny and Bruce Almighty being the two top. When I think about what advice I can give to people where, they're suicidally depressed and they're in that hole how can I help them? What kind of line can I throw to them? What kind of ladder can I put in the hole that they're going to see? Because most of the time when someone's in that hole, you could put an elephant next to them and they're not going to see it. You could put the Holy Grail next to them, and their depression's going to keep them from seeing that thing there that's within a hand's reach, that's going to pull them out, and it's going to help them get out of that hole, get out of that funk. That's the hardest question to answer. If I could answer that question, I could win a Nobel Prize. I mean, that's what we're looking for here, right? We're all looking for, how can I help my fellow humans not suffer? How can I get rid of the dukkha in the world? We need to take all the anguish, and we need to turn it all into mudita, all into vicarious joy. But getting from point A to point B, it's work. In my case, I didn't need any medications. There are a lot of people who do, and that's absolutely fine. There was nothing wrong with that. I am the last person to judge anything. But, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. Brains are weird. We don't understand them. They're a big chemical soup. And sometimes that soup needs a little adjusting to get it to try to work a little bit better and a little bit more in a more healthy manner, more productive manner, maybe. I'm not sure what word to use, but I think you know what I mean. But yeah, it's that how question it's the golden one. I've talked to a lot of people who've been on the edge, and all I can really do is share my story. This is me, this is what I've done, these are the changes I've made, and this is what's pulled me forward. Everybody's got value, everybody has worth. I don't care who it is. Everybody's human. Sometimes it's really hard to see. That goes along with my belief in compassion, that every human has some kind of value. But how to get out of that hole? Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the habits I've developed. Gratitude's probably the primary one. Learning gratitude. It can be a really hard thing to do when you're in the hole. But like everything I've gone through and everything I've done, I've turned these things all into habits. There's a really good book by a monk called Matthieu Ricard. And he actually works with the Dalai Lama, and he does it's on the cutting edge of meditation and fMRI imaging of the brain during meditation and what changes that makes. But he wrote a book called Happiness is a Habit. It's another book I recommend. I'll put some of these book titles in the podcast notes for this. And yeah, I know I'm rambling, but that's what I get for never scripting any of these. You got to try to find a spark, and it might not be the right spark at first, but you got to try to find a spark. What's one thing you can use that's the light at the end of the tunnel that you can, take 10 steps towards and 20 steps away from, and then 3 steps forward, and then 20 steps back, and then 30 steps forward. What's that spark, that light that you can use as an anchor to try to latch onto, to try to pull yourself forward, even if it's someday I want to have a cat, or I really want to see this band in concert. Or everybody's got a spark. Everybody's got a thing that they like, they love, they enjoy, that brings them some kind of delight, and that's the thing. You got to look for those things and write them down, put them on Post-it notes around your house. So when you get depressed, you see these notes, and then, there's that thing. You try to remind yourself that there's this spark out there, this thing that you're going to let pull her forward. And even if it's unattainable, put it out there, something that you can strive towards or move. And you don't have to make success every day or every month. This is not an event. This is absolutely a process. At first, for me, it was every minute. And then it turned to every hour. And then it was every day. And then it was every week. And, it's that building of momentum and that building of habits and the building of skills to deal with the depression and the being down in the hole, and when the bad things happen, not getting lost in them, not getting completely woe is me. But yeah, these are hard things. These are hard asks that I'm throwing out there for anybody who's listening to this. But, like I said, I've talked to a bunch of people who have been right on the edge, and I don't know what I said to each of them, but it seems to have worked for all of them. So I count myself unbelievably fortunate to have been able to be part of these people's lives in whatever small manner, in whatever small way. I'm always available. I mean, just Doug at DougInAPub.com. Shoot me an email. Find me on Facebook or any of the other social medias. Call me. Reach out. I'll talk to anybody about this, because Life is a team sport, and if you can't get out of the hole yourself, but again, this is that depression thing. When you're in the hole, you don't realize people are reaching out to help you. You don't, because you don't find value. You don't see it. And that's the hardest part of how is if someone's in a black hole and there's an event horizon that sucks everything in, they're never going to see any rope, any ladder, whatever you throw in to help them. They're not going to see. And that's the magic, is when you're not in the down spot, try to get things ready to help you see when somebody reaches out to help. That's why I suggest notes. Make a gratitude jar. Every day before you go to bed, think of 3 things you're grateful for. Even if it's, I took a shower today. I'm proud of that. I took a shower. I'm grateful I ate breakfast. Even if you didn't take a shower or eat any other meals, but you ate breakfast. There doesn't have to be. I shouldn't say that. But try to find, no matter how small, try to start finding things you can be grateful for. And it's all a buildup. It's all a momentum. And when you're depressed, you have no momentum anymore. You're stuck. You're absolutely glued to the spot. And finding that momentum is so hard. It's so very, very hard, because you're not going to listen to other people. You're going to listen to the depression, and that's all you're going to listen to. So yeah, going back to the beginning, before I tried to kill myself that night, I had basically put out a guidepost for me. So if I woke up, this is what I was going to do. So for me, when I woke up, I already had that spark, that light at the end of the tunnel to pull me forward. Before I made the attempt, I tried. Now, I'm not saying make the attempt. Please, please, please don't. But what I'm saying is, when you're not as depressed as your worst, or when you're in a decent mood or a good mood or an upswing, start making these lists. One of the things people do is when they're depressed, they listen to sad songs. No, when you're in a good mood, make a list of your happiest songs, and then title that playlist, Songs for When I'm Depressed. And when you're depressed, you listen to those, because, again, humans are creatures of habit. We associate songs with moods. So if we're depressed, we listen to depressed songs, we're going to stay depressed. If we're happy and we listen to happy songs, we stay happy. So if we're depressed, listen to happy songs, we should be happier. That's like, even one of the things I learned to do was, I have a terrible resting bitch face. I look angry when I'm not smiling. So what I've learned to do over the years was always smile. Even though it takes work, I actually have to, activate muscles. It's something I've turned into a habit. And just by smiling, you will be in a better mood. It releases chemicals. The physical movements of a smile actually trigger reactions in the brain that release the chemicals that make you happier, that move you towards happy. So just smile. Even if you're not happy, just smile. It's like, if you pretend to cry, sometimes it makes you sad. That's how it works. The brain does weird things to itself. It's more malleable than people think. But, boy, I've really rambled all over the place on this one. But, yeah, that's what I do. I ramble. If I scripted these, it'd be better, but I talk very unnaturally, not the way I talk at all. But, yeah, so how did I get from A to B? As I enacted Plan A, I already had a Plan B in place. So before I got depressed, I already had a map of how to get away from being depressed, how to move away from depression. So that's what I did. And now that the guy next door is cutting his grass, I think I'm going to cut this short. So thank you very much for listening. Please ask me questions. If you need help, ask for help. If not me, there's a suicide hotline. I know there's some texting services now, some online chatbot services. Make a map for, put depression in the middle, and make a map of things you can do to get away from the middle, and hide them around your house. So when you're depressed, you're ready to go. Make a playlist of your happiest songs and call it Play When Depressed. Do all these, put all these signposts in your way, so when you get depressed and you're trying to get out of the hole, you might have a signpost or two to help you out. That's the best advice I can give from A to B. For me, like I said, I put one in place. I already knew I was going to promise never to try it again if I woke up. So yeah, that's how I did it. I already had laid out breadcrumbs and signposts for me, so if I woke up, I could move forward. So again, thank you for listening. Here to help. Life is a team sport. Let's all try to get through this thing together and help each other up. Ask for help. It's one of the bravest things a person can do. I'm tired of it being called weak. Asking for help is strong. It takes so much frickin' strength to ask for help. Ask for help. People will help. We like to help. It's a natural human innate thing we have, is to help other humans. Anyway, take excellent care of yourself. Wash your hands. Watch out for each other. Put your own oxygen mask on first. Don't spit in the wind. Bye-bye.